Welcome to the WinEH podcast. This show is focused on empowering ranchers. Whether you're a seasoned rancher or just getting started, we'll guide you on how to use the infinite banking concept as an alternative way to finance your operations. It's a better way to think about money. Join us as we discuss planning for the future, attracting the next generation, and the art of keeping more money within the family. Here's your hosts, Winnie and Lacey.
All right. So we got Sherwin here today, joining us from the lovely area of Canada, in a province of Canada somewhere. I don't know if you want to reveal what province you're in. You do that.
Sure. I'm in Ontario, Toronto to be exact.
Yes, he is one of those brave souls that brave the Greater Toronto area traffic on the day-to-day level. I couldn't do it, but you do, which means you must have patience.
I don't know. Well, I'm going to have more patience. Let's put it that way with Toronto traffic.
Right. Okay. Well, Sherwin, you're here today, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here today and your willingness to get on camera and share with us your own personal journey with the infinite banking concept. So this started probably back in 2018, 2019.
Yes. Around that time. So, I think it was around 2018, actually, the first time I reached out to you.
Yeah. So, for all of those sitting there, about to pull the trigger, or really everyone is at a different stage. If you're listening to this, that means you have come across the infinite banking concept. And really, what is it, Sherwin, that you can share with us your own personal story of what turned you on to this?
Yes. Well, for me, I came upon the concept at a tumultuous time in my life, both personal and professional, actually. And I don't know if it was just the algorithm who was showing me some information, but I kept coming across on social media an ad it didn't give a lot of information, but it was talking about some things that I was sort of interested in. And I think I had done a search on something like how to preserve wealth or something like that. I don't remember exactly what, but this information popped up on my social media feed, and I just decided to, pursue it. It may have been late at night, you're going down a rabbit hole in one of those sessions. And I think over the next few days, I sort of did some more online research about it. And the more I read, the more I thought that it was something that could do me some good. I didn't know how it could, but, from what I learned, it gave me the impression that it was something worth pursuing and getting some more information. So I think that I reached out to you by email, just a general email to get some more information. And I didn't think anything was going to happen. But sure enough, I think you or one of your team members contacted me, and it went from there. Why was I looking? Again, I was going through some changes and challenges, and I just wanted to know that I could control something that was happening in my life at that time. And even if it was perfect, that I could begin the rebuilding process, with my finances. And so I hit up on the idea. So once I was contacted and I was given some information, I looked into the information that was provided to me generally. And the more I kept looking at it, the better I felt about it as a vehicle that I could use for long-term financial planning, personal financial planning. And the words that kept coming back is your own personal bank. Of course, I had no idea that any such thing existed. So when I heard that, I thought it was really just a cool flex to say I had my own personal bank. But of course, the more I looked, again, it was all upside, no downside. And that was really all I needed. And from there, I persisted and pursued it. We got in touch, we spoke, and from there, we've had a relationship since then.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think one of the key things that really stuck out from what you just shared was that, at the time when you were going through so much personally and professionally, you just wanted to feel like you had some semblance of control. And It's interesting because a lot of the times I think people, financially speaking, feel like that's something that is hard to control. Typically I think that there's around the area of finances, if you feel like there was something that you read and came across that provided you with a way to feel like you were in more control in a time where you felt everything was out of control, I think that
Mhm.
really says something.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Mhm.
And the thing that kept coming back was really about there were concepts that I wasn't aware of before, like how to preserve your wealth. Well, I'm
Mhm.
not wealthy, so it wasn't something that was necessarily on my radar, but it doesn't need to apply to somebody wealthy. Anything you have as an asset, you want to preserve it, and to ensure that it's protected. And so whether you have a lot or little or in between, the concepts in this particular vehicle spoke to me, and it made me feel like, well, I could do things now that could bear fruit in the future.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And to add to what you're saying, to bear fruit a little bit later, because the journey that you had started with, it all has to start somewhere. And it actually, like, becoming your own banker didn't happen for you right away, but we actually had to
Right.
start in such a way where it was like, we started you off with like a term insurance contract. And then when
Mhm.
things settled down in your personal life and when you were a little like more stable, right? Because the cost of term insurance was an easy in, right? To lock in that medical insurability for yourself.
Yes.
And so, yeah. And then when things finally stabled out, you were actually in a position to then convert it to the specific, like, specially designed in whole life insurance contract to meet the needs and your cash flow at the time of where you sat. And then from there, it
Yes.
was just like Bob's your uncle.
Yes.
So they
Yes,
say.
indeed. Yes. And you know what I found too is that as things sort of settled into a routine of, funding my own bank, if you will, it actually gave me an opportunity to sort of focus less on certain things that were not helping me financially. So it not only was a vehicle to sort of, store some financial wealth or to build that over time, but it actually changed my attitude itself. Things that I would normally look at or that I might spend on frivolously, this whole concept and the way that you showed it to me, Winnie, it actually helped to change my attitude internally as well. So it was not just a vehicle for financial well-being. It also changed my attitude and taught me a little bit about finances that was simply just not on my radar.
I think that's amazing. I mean, the learning never stops, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, I mean, the moment that we think we know everything, then we just stop learning and growing, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
we're effectively like, and I'm not saying this is all teenagers, but hey, this is like a phase of teenagers, like, where they just think they know it all. You know what
Yes.
it's like. I was
Yeah.
definitely one, right? That whole phase, like, I just know, don't tell me what to do,
Yes.
you know?
Oh, I mean, totally. And I have teenagers as children. So, I mean, that concept rings very, very true. Feel that you know something. And, my daughter specifically, I would give her some advice and she has to run it by her friend. And I would say, well, your friends don't know anything either. So, so
But
that stage
yeah,
I'm
it's
in.
yeah, but it's that stage, like, it is that stage, like, everyone else has more credibility than the parents.
Right. Right.
It's so normal. It's so normal.
Absolutely. And those are
And
things I've had to learn as well, along with, being my own banker. I've had to learn that, you just have to, with parenting, that is a phase and you just have to survive it.
yeah, and so anyone checking out the infinite banking concept, I guess, you said a lot already in the sense, like, it was just worth it to check out for
Yeah.
yourself. And you said so
Mhm.
many great things so far in this particular time that we've had together. What else could you share if, a person who is, let's say, already, like, they've gotten started, they have the
Mhm.
policy, but they haven't quite utilized it yet. Could you say in this very moment, like, any words of encouragement to actually get moving on it? Don't just let it
For
sit
sure.
there.
For sure. First of all, the statement I made that there is all upside and no downside really is true. I mean, from simple dollars and cents perspective, this particular vehicle allows you a certain level of freedom that you simply cannot get through the conventional ways, whether it's, through a bank lending you money or you saving some money yourself in a bank. Those are good, but they simply don't have the flexibility that this vehicle has. And first, for somebody who has not started, if you have not started, if it's a case of information, there's plenty of information available. If it's a case of proof of concept and can this really work, I am the poster boy for proof of concept that this works. I knew nothing before, and now I am so glad that I have this vehicle. I mean, I can't imagine not having it. Let's say that. So for the person who is, just thinking about it, if it's a case of information, get the information. If it's a case of will this really work, proof that it does. For the person who may have already started the program but is not really sure, they're just sort of, participating for participatory sake, I would say this is a game changer. It's fundamentally completely different. And by different, I mean better than any other concept I know. For the simple sake of how your money operates in this vehicle. And, while I'm not good at explaining it, I think that what I would say is that to have money available to you while it's also growing, I don't know of any concept that's better financially.
And thank you for sharing that piece. I mean, I know that it's one thing for me to share that, but it's another thing, because most people think, okay, well, yeah, you're super biased. You're the one like helping people to like, you're selling it, right? So it's different than someone who's not selling it. So I appreciate you really sharing that because you won't really comprehend that until you actually use it, which actually lives up to the word life insurance, like during your life, which is great. It was actually titled correctly. There's nothing misleading about that. In this particular instance. I would also love to hear from the side of, in terms of after it's in place, what has your experience been like to work with our team? Yeah.
Yes. All right. Perfect. So in that regard, it honestly felt like magic. So I had to take a loan from my policy, and it honestly felt like magic. All I had to do was to just literally make the request from your team. Your team confirmed the necessary details. And within 2 weeks, this money showed up in my bank and nobody was asking me about it. I didn't have to claim it as, some income. It's such a wonderful tool. It felt like magic to be able to have that option because the way I look at it is that I may have had the monies available otherwise, but to have the money available, but still have it working for you is simply magic. There's really no other way I could think about it. It's such a simple process. Your team made it so simple. And I've never had an issue. It's really just a case of tell us what you want to do and we'll facilitate it happening. And that has always been the case. Always very quick to provide me information and also to let me know where my policy is, what's the status of the policy, and all the details surrounding it so that I have an idea of what's happening with my bank. It's kind of like having a personal assistant for your bank. So, and this is something else too, Winnie, that some people may be overwhelmed by the idea, I have my own bank. There's many things that I may have to deal with tax-wise and, with the government and so on and so forth. But it really isn't any of those things from my experience. From my experience, it's really a case of you have your own money available to you when you want, and you can treat it just like your own bank. You would pay yourself some interest if you need to, and that interest doesn't go to someone else. It just accumulates back to yourself. So it really is that simple.
Yeah, I like what you say there. And, just to give some perspective, obviously you've really come to appreciate and value like the flip side of the benefits, the features and benefits that it can give you. I think if we were to do our best to like put ourselves in the shoe of people who haven't gone through all the steps and are sitting there comparing back and forth, like, between the current convenience of dealing with the bank, like the regular features and benefits of a regular conventional bank versus, using a life insurance policy, like a specific type of life insurance policy in all intensive purposes. I think that's probably one of the current hurdles that I think most people, that this is why you keep reading and educating yourself, because it's kind of like that shift in thinking, right? Because they operate on completely two different foundations. Even the laws that back the bank versus the laws that back the insurance companies, very different. And, if you were to compare it to, a person setting up a Tangerine account, right? Like there's still that you put money up there and then it still takes time for that money to come back into your bank account to make it liquid again, right? So I would have to say, like, people do have to understand that, if you want control, there is a trade-off to some convenience here. Like, here's a person like Sherwin saying, yes, no, you do have access to your money. Like, you will get it. It's just a matter of when, right? It may not be as quick as something like that, even Tangerine. Like, I think a lot of people had to overcome the concept of
an online bank. Fully online
of an online, that's right, an online bank, and versus this. And so, you really have to take a look at the features and benefits over the long haul to really understand the value of doing it in the first place, because you are trading off a certain level of convenience in order to get the benefits.
Winnie, I have been an online banking customer now for at least a decade. So in the beginning, certainly that, the idea of, wait a minute, there's not a brick and mortar place that I'm going to go to and so on and so forth. Those things are all things that going from a traditional banking experience that one would think of. But Tangerine got over it. And I think that what they sold me on was nothing will change. We'll just give you better service is what they promised, essentially. Nothing is going to change that you don't have a brick and mortar experience, but anything you could go into the bank for, we'll give it to you. So I went with that. And if I were to compare the two, I would say that the customer service level that I received from your team, right up there, if not better and more personal than the Tangerine experience. Nothing against the Tangerine experience, because they're actually pretty good customer service wise, but the hands-on feel of it definitely works. And I think as you were speaking, I think that one of the things that I was looking at a lot was how with all of the things that were going on, both in my own personal experience and professional experience at the time, I certainly wanted to look and explore these things. But I also think generally in the world, there was just a level of unease, if going back to the 2008 crisis, I remembered a lot of people who were talking about that, a lot of people who had gotten burned from that, a lot of people who had some not so good experiences. And one of the online influencers, if you will, that I follow mentioned that during the 2008 crisis, he decided that the single most important thing that he was going to concentrate on was how to preserve his wealth. That was what he kept going on, because he said, 2008 sort of caught him off guard, and he was just, continuously hammering the fact that he was never going to be put in that situation again. And that got me thinking about the same thing, really. I don't have, excessive wealth, but it got me thinking, well, at the moment, right, at the moment. But it got me thinking that if somebody of his caliber was going to be thinking about preserving wealth, then, it would bode well for me to also think about the same thing. And what this vehicle has done for me, even in today's uncertain times, is given me that certainty and security that I have taken some steps that will protect some of my assets, if not all of them, that are put in this particular vehicle. And it just gave me a good feeling about it.
And what happens should you prematurely pass?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what happens when I die? When I die is that asset is protected from the tax man insofar as there's a term that I don't remember the term, but I know that when I die, and I suspect I'll still have this policy till death, is that there'll be some probate protection, I think. I do not know all of the benefits, but I know that there'll be some protection of that monies and it won't have to face the tax, it won't have to face the tax man, I believe. And so that gives me some peace of mind that,
Right.
that
It, so, I guess just to sort of, basically close the thought off, and I know that this is where you're going with this, is that whoever your beneficiaries you choose will receive this tax-free death benefit.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Right?
precisely what I wanted to say. Because I learned only through IBC, I learned words like probate, and what that means after death. And I was like, wait a minute, these things really happen. And these are things, we think we know what we should know, but we
Mm-hmm.
really don't know everything that we should know about our finances and what happens sometimes after that. Because, we're so
Oh my
busy,
gosh.
we're so busy concentrating on the now that, we never think about those things. And a lot of us think we know, but there's a lot of information is still unknown.
Well, you know what? Like I said, it's like every day's learning. Like, I mean, I've been sharing this since 2010. And so, growing, like me participating, this is my lifestyle too. Infinite banking is a financial lifestyle. And as I grow with my clients, such as yourself, I continue to learn because not everybody's life is the same. And so
Right.
with every choice that we make, not only does it impact potentially our life when we're alive,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
something as simple as opening up a bank account in the States and one
Right.
bank account. And even if you put just $25 in that bank account,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you have just added another layer of administration to what happens upon death. There's very few people that really think that far ahead, right? You're just thinking,
Correct.
oh, I'm
Correct.
going to just go open up that bank account. So like,
Yes.
when something happens, like I'm ready for it. Like I'm ready to, like I have a US account and I'm ready for it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's all you're
Right.
thinking about. But
Correct.
you're not thinking.
I was one
So,
of those people.
so yeah, with all that being said, and to really respect the use of your time, Sherwin, thank you so much. Unless there's anything else that you would like to add or advocate for.
I would say,
Okay.
anyone that is thinking of this, I was there. If you
Mhm.
have sought out this particular vehicle, it means that you are searching for something more. And if you are searching for something more, this is a vehicle that has the potential and a good potential to get you where you want to. The flexibility, the security, and in your particular case, Winnie, the customer service experience, bar none. I would even venture to say that there are many times, Winnie, when I just started this process, I would talk a lot about my personal issues to you, and you would listen. I would be like, I feel so bad for her because I just dumped all this stuff on her. But you were gracious and, as always, accommodating. And so the experience for me has been great. I cannot personally see in my future not having this vehicle in some way, shape, or form. Absolutely a must if you are thinking long term.
Thank you so much, Sherwin, again, for sharing your own personal experience and being courageous to help others along in their own personal journey. Sometimes it just does provide that extra peace of mind that, when they're doing something new, they're not alone. Because sometimes it just feels scary. Like, if not everyone's doing it, then, then what's going on? Is this really safe? And so again,
Correct.
for really just being you, I appreciate it so much.
Yeah. You're welcome. And I said one last thing, but I do have to mention one more thing because what you just said, there are a lot of people online who will dole out free financial information on how to get rich. There is plenty of that. And I have looked up a lot of them and gone down those rabbit holes. And I can say that in my experience, this particular vehicle, and I'm a real person saying this for anyone who's listening, this particular vehicle has made the most sense for me. And it's not, something pushed by influencers. It's real people doing real things to ensure real results for the future. So if you're thinking about it, think deeper, but don't hesitate. Go for it.
Awesome. Thank you.
So glad you leaned in with us on the WinEH podcast. We truly hope you're feeling more informed and empowered to take another step towards optimizing your financial life. Right now, make sure you hit subscribe so you can keep growing and learning with us. Until next time, we wish you prosperity in every area of your life.